and they do a lot of the creative stuff. Like we did the show at PBR, and they made giant 8-foot PBR like cans, like these giant dancing cans that shot foam out of them. And but that, like, just having creative people around you in your life, like if you're doing art, that is it's so awesome. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but like those dudes are my best friends, the Thunder Horse dudes. And we'll just sit around and just like riff and tell jokes. And even Mike and I used to do this when we worked at Whole Foods to make things like cool. Like we used to just like riff and tell jokes, and that keeps your mind going and it keeps you on point. And even like if they're doing something, they made like this space adventure ride, the Thunder Horse dudes, and it was like it's just like when you would go to a mall and like you get in it and you know it's like the video and it's all hydraulics and you go through like this space adventure thing. And they redid that at this art gallery down here, and that just came out by us just joking around with each other and just like riffing. And that's the one thing, like, one thing I noticed I did for a while, like, there was a time where I was just, like, all by myself, not doing much, like, creative stuff, but once you get around people and you just get that vibe going, it's really cool. And that's, like, what happened with us. The cool kids used to live with us, and they would, like, make a song, and, like, it would get Josh and I stoked, and we'd be like, yo, I want to make, like, a song that sounds like it was from the 80s, and, like, that's just kind of how it works. Like, if you guys surround yourself with people, like, just doing it, it's a good thing. Yeah. But if you surround yourself with people that are like, man, I hate my life, you're gonna kind of hate your life. It's true.
It is true. It is for sure. And there's like, and that's what when I was saying the whole like competitive side of Chicago and like it's very cutthroat. There is a lot of that kind of attitude where people are just like, man, fuck this city, man. Like whatever. I'm gonna move to New York, and then they move to New York and realize they're a smaller fish in an even bigger pond, and they realize it's even more difficult.
Yeah, that was the one thing about us coming out of Chicago too. A lot of people noticed when we were like touring and stuff. Like, no one really was, at least at the time, looking at Chicago as like something that was popping off at the time, at least. Like, and that was the thing. Like Kanye would move to New York or whatever, and like I don't know. I think that we were. I mean, I guess I don't know, big fish, but we were in a smaller pond. I guess people don't look at Chicago. It's a second city, so they kind of look at it like, I don't know, they take it with a grain of salt. So if you make a little noise here, it speaks a lot more than if you make noise in like LA. Because like, I don't know, I haven't really heard of much stuff popping off straight out of LA, like right out of the.
I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but the whole like Kanye thing was like, he's extraordinarily talented, was making amazing music and kind of like killed it at when he came out. And he put on a lot of his like rapper friends, like you'd see tracks where it was featuring GLC, featuring like Consequence, whoever. But what they didn't have that we had was a scene. Those guys, I'd heard of them, but I never like saw them out everywhere. Like, I'm just gonna try this. How many of you guys have seen us before? Like a hand, just a hand. Okay, so you've seen us. You guys, this little group over here. Like, we're out, and people know us. So it wasn't like when we blew up, like everyone was like, who's this? Or like, fuck those dudes. People got to see it the entire way. So there's a relationship with that. Like, when we see people out, we're still like, yo, what's up, how's it going? Yeah. We know all these kids because they came to our parties, like, from the beginning. And still do. And so, it's like, in this scenario, Chicago is it's a gigantic city with a very, very close-knit musical scene. I feel like I've seen, like, so many bands from here. Like, I used to work at Metro, so I saw so many shows there, and like, Double Door, and like being around and just seeing all these different bands. Like, it's very easy if you want to try and get involved on all these different levels and be accepted. And so it was for us when we got into it. The fact that all these kids and all these people were there, and then as it started to grow and get bigger, yes, I think that there were we had a little bit of like a backlash in a sense, but it was never from the fans. It was never from the people that were there that we were actually like seeing at our parties. They were never like, oh, they got too big. It was always the people that weren't at the parties in the beginning who might have got on a little bit like later, and then we're like, oh fuck them, they got too big. Like, I feel it's really ironic actually that we're in a hip hop class, because at the beginning the people that hated on us most were actually the Chicago kind of hip hop head scene. They were very like, oh, these guys are making like dance music, oh, that shit's gay or like whatever.
Even with the cool kids too.
Yeah, with the cool kids when they got started, they were getting
like, why are you wearing these flashy clothes and this like, it was so funny. I remember
hold on, real quick. With us, we're using Serato, like, which is we're not public speakers, we're just like freestyling. Yeah. But we're using Serato, which is like a program basically that makes it so you can DJ using like these fake records. It's like it's still vinyl, everything's still the same skill-wise, but you go off your computer. And at that time, all the
I'll bring it up on the screen.
yeah, all the DJs in the hip hop world, it was very much like, oh, you got to use vinyl. If you're not using vinyl, you're not a real DJ. Like and like skill-wise, once again, it's the same. You got to know how to DJ. You got to really know to like be able to do this. And so we got really hated on for that, but it was beautiful because like a year and a half maybe went by, and all those dudes that were hating on us were using Serato next, you know, and we're like already on to like the next wave that they were kind of hating on. So even then, like the short backlash that we had, people kind of came around even then still, because once again, me and Kurt, like, I don't know if you can tell from this, but we're pretty positive guys. Like we really just like to have a good time, and like we want people to enjoy themselves, and that's our job. So the fact that I think that we didn't really reach out to, like we'd hear people talk shit, and we were never like, oh yeah, well fuck you guys, and fuck like your crew or whatever. We were just like, all right, that's your opinion. Whatever, like just having a party. We were too busy like fucking like stage diving to be like, I couldn't even hear it. I was like, what? Like seriously. So let me finish this point. I know I'm rambling, but we finished, like we got to the point where you know those people kind of came around, and like people started kind of understand it, and it was kind of dope because I noticed now like I'm looking at a lot of the indie hip hop stuff coming out of Chicago, and it's like a little bit more party based. Like, there's a little bit
more party.
Yeah, it's not so much on the like fuck you, like there's still battles for sure, but like before we're so angry and like so mad and so jaded, like oh our city like doesn't ever get any shine, so I'm gonna rap about it and fucking hate everyone else. And it was like I feel like with us like we got accepted, Cool Kids kind of got accepted, Kisses too, we like branched out a little bit, and it made it a little more like acceptable to do music that is lyrically like competent and decent and like relevant, production amazing, but people will still dance to it. And it can work in the club as well as work on a level where you're just listening to it in your headphones, like smoking a blunt, and like listening to what they're saying, you're like, holy shit, this is like super fucking deep and like awesome. So,
all right, in regards to the hating, I think it's a lot of people's first, the easiest reaction to have to something is to hate on it.
Yeah.
It's very easy and it's very almost contagious. However, I feel like you guys have the perfect setup in that the South Side scene has always sounded the same.
Yeah.
Somewhat stagnant. Nobody's really blowing up out of there, except for Kanye and Common and these guys. West Side scene, very stagnant, very gangster.
Yeah.
Y'all had an opening for some positive music, stylistically that was different than all this. So it was like Chicago's music scene, you guys, the Kid Sister, Hollywood Hope, Cool Kids, I think were integral in reinventing the Chicago sound.
Yeah.
Or else the industry wouldn't have given a shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Thank you.
What you were saying real quick with the haters and stuff like that, it just that whole vibe, the thing that he was talking about with how just everyone was so like angry and like the rap was so angry, because him and I were in the hip hop scene. We were there.
Yeah,
And
we
we
noticed
noticed
Woman shows and all that shit.
Yeah, we used to see that. But the one thing I noticed is, I mean, this was me being a horny young kid, but I noticed there was like not that many girls there. There was a bunch of dudes just mean mugging, not moving, nothing, and I was like, what? And that was the one thing when him and I started out, we would play house parties and we would play fun dance music, and the dance floor was full of girls first, and all the dudes were like trying to get in there, like dance with the girls, and I was like, whoa, I like girls, I like this, and so we kept it going, and no, it's true.
It is true.
And
It's
that was
science.
the basis of this. That was the basis of this, and it wasn't like so much like, I don't know, it just wasn't on some like, I don't know how to put this into better words, but like some dude shit. I don't know, it wasn't like, I wanted to like prove that I was the best DJ to like the guys in the crowd. I was like, I want to make the girls dance. And I don't know, it just went from there, and that's kind of what it was.